Lessons from Schopenhauer's Views on Genius by John Vespasian. Arthur Schopenhauer, 1788–1860, wrote extensively about the phenomenon of genius. His notes provide clues on how to increase one's creativity and critical thinking. They give hands-on advice on increasing one's self-awareness and self-reliance. Let us examine Schopenhauer's recommendations and see if they can be applied here and now. I am going to be drawing the recommendations from Schopenhauer's books, especially from Parerga and Paralipomena, in its edition of 1851. Why do geniuses possess higher creativity? Schopenhauer argued that geniuses are more creative because of their ability to transcend their own interests, rise above them, and examine problems dispassionately. I regard Schopenhauer's explanation as obviously wrong. It contradicts all human experience to affirm that people become more creative when they don't care. Look at your life. You tend to think more sharply when you are interested in the outcome. It's false to say that uninterested people are more creative. Schopenhauer should have linked his explanation to resilience, not to indifference. He should have argued that self-confident, self-reliant persons tend to be more creative because they can keep a cool head in times of trouble. Schopenhauer and the fearlessness of genius. Here is a major lesson. If you want to become more creative and get closer to genius level, keep a cool head. Stay calm and examine the facts. Get an accurate picture of the situation. This does not mean that you should be indifferent to the outcome. Schopenhauer observed that geniuses appear to be fearless, or at least less fearful than the average person. In Parerga and Paralipomena, he noted that geniuses are willing to do what needs to be done. They are willing to go as far as necessary to get problems solved. Average people are rarely willing to risk upsetting their boss and will not tread beyond what's known to be acceptable. They will limit themselves to doing as much as they can, even if that means leaving the problem at hand unsolved. Genius is the outcome of fearless dedication and creativity. It needs consistency, motivation, and energy. It revolves around truth and truth only. It will not sway or sugarcoat its views to avoid controversy. A strong determination to get things done is an essential element in creativity and genius. Schopenhauer and the encouragement of genius. Schopenhauer sustained that genius has no country and that it arises everywhere. I regard his statement as an exaggeration. The truth is that genius does not arise everywhere. Most cases of genius, such as Schopenhauer himself, result from massive encouragement from family and friends. From all children in 18th century Prussia, only a few benefited from a one-year stay in England to learn English, or from a one-year stay in France to learn French. Schopenhauer benefited from both, and those certainly helped his intellectual development. When a person benefits from excellent education and family support, I find it rather cynical to say that genius can arise in any circumstances. At an early age, Mozart received intense music lessons from his father. I am talking about hundreds of hours in lessons and practice. Eventually, Mozart became a musical genius, but one cannot seriously say he would have flourished without lessons. Schopenhauer and the independence of genius. According to Schopenhauer, geniuses can find breakthrough solutions that other people cannot see. Why? Because geniuses keep their minds open, free of prejudice and allegiances. They are determined to get things done even when everybody else is saying that the obstacles are insurmountable. In Parerga and Paralipomena, Schopenhauer also portrays geniuses as extraordinarily independent. I'm talking about both the emotional and financial aspects of independence. Geniuses are willing to relinquish well-paid jobs, prestige, and friends if they feel encroached on their personal freedom. Schopenhauer's life illustrates this aspect compellingly. His failure to gain acceptance in the world of academia was caused by his deep independence. He didn't refrain from criticizing the mistakes of Fichte (1762–1814) and Hegel (1770–1831), even if keeping his mouth shut would have benefited his career. Thanks to their self-reliance, geniuses are able to cope very effectively with chaos. Schopenhauer underlined this aspect in Parerga and Paralipomena. Contradictory, chaotic, unverified information creates stress for average people. In contrast, geniuses can keep a cool head. Instead of recoiling in fear, they calmly compare data, come up with hypotheses, test them, and arrive at accurate conclusions. Schopenhauer and the low time preference of genius. Schopenhauer also noted that geniuses are more interested in the future than in the present. Economists have named this phenomenon low time preference. Low time preference depicts the mentality of individuals willing to invest today's time, working, studying, for future gains. Schopenhauer fell into this group, which encompasses many ambitious and creative people. High time preference depicts the mentality of individuals willing to fund today's enjoyment, car, home, stereo, holidays, by borrowing from the future. Schopenhauer didn't employ the term low time preference in his observations, but he was 100% right. Geniuses and entrepreneurs envision a future that others cannot see, and pursue it relentlessly and fearlessly. In doing so, they make the world richer and more interesting for everybody else. If you are interested in applying rational principles in all sorts of situations, I recommend you my book, Sequentiality, The Amazing Power of Finding the Right Sequence of Steps. For more information, go to johnvespasian.com.